months back, I found myself alone at home when the doorbell rang. It was odd. My parents were out, and I hadn't expected anyone. My friends weren't the type to drop by unannounced. With the clock striking 10 p.m., the darkness added an eerie vibe. Still, curiosity got the better of me. I had to see who was there, even if it was late. Summoning my courage, I swung the door open to reveal a young, strikingly handsome man. I was speechless, convinced he was the elusive Prince Charming I dreamed of. In a matter of seconds, my mind conjured up countless scenarios about why he might be standing on my doorstep. The imagination of a 20-year-old single guy knows no bounds. But words failed me. I stood there, mesmerized by his tall frame and piercing blue eyes. We shared a silent moment, neither of us speaking. And then, the unexpected happened. The mysterious visitor introduced himself, offering up the lamest excuse in the book. Sorry to bother you, but my tire blew out. Are you alone? Or is there someone who can help me? It seemed like he was expecting my father or another male presence. That's when a pang of fear gripped me. Reality hit, and I realized he could be a threat. A robber, a kidnapper, who knows? He must have sensed my apprehension because he took a step back and decided to come clean. I'm not here to harm you, but you need to listen, he said. Every instinct screamed for me to slam the door shut, but something held me back. I decided to hear him out. He started with a wild tale, claiming he'd been searching for me for months. He didn't want to startle me, so he approached as a stranger. I was on the verge of fainting. Was he a lunatic? A stalker? But no, he dropped the bombshell. He was my long-lost brother. Talk about a plot twist. Throughout my life, I'd grown accustomed to being the only child. There were no siblings to share secrets with or bicker over trivial matters. My parents doted on me, their undivided attention focused solely on their only offspring. So, you can imagine the whirlwind of emotions that swept over me upon learning I had a brother, a 24-year-old, towering figure of a brother, no less. But the plot thickens. I mustered the courage to invite him inside, and we engaged in a lengthy conversation. However, he seemed reluctant to divulge the details of our kinship until our parents returned. I could sense the bewilderment in his expression, as if he expected me to be aware of his existence all along. After a couple of hours and a few cappuccinos later, my folks finally arrived home, well past midnight. Picture this: a stranger lounging in our living room. It was evident they had no clue who he was. Their initial assumption, that he was my boyfriend, cueing my dad's protective instincts to kick in. Classic case of dad mode activated. But before things escalated, my brother intervened, insisting they all sit down and have a proper discussion. Amidst the tension, my mom suddenly broke down in tears. I was utterly perplexed. What bombshell were they about to drop? Through choked sobs, my mom began to unravel the truth, cautioning that what she was about to reveal might alter my perception of them. Instantly, my mind raced to scenarios of giving my brother up for adoption in their youth, an act driven by fear and uncertainty. Yet, reality proved far more complex. As my mom stuttered through her words, she recounted her pregnancy with me, curiously omitting any mention of my newfound sibling. When I pressed for an explanation, her response was cryptic. You will understand. It's a curious tale, really. They say I came into this world on a day marked by an earthquake. Now, you might be scratching your head, wondering how seismic activity ties into discovering my long-lost brother. Trust me, I was just as baffled. Let's rewind a bit. Picture a small-town hospital buzzing with the excitement of new arrivals. That's where it all began. My arrival, that is, born in June amidst a mere 16 other infants, which might not sound like much, but in our cozy town, it's quite the event. And believe me, I made quite the entrance, taking my sweet time to make my grand debut. You see, I've always been a bit indecisive, even before I entered the world. But enough about my prenatal ponderings. During our heart-to-heart, my mom dropped a bombshell. Apparently, all newborns look alike. Now, imagine my bewilderment. If all babies are indistinguishable, how could my own mother fail to recognize me? In that moment, a wave of doubt crashed over me. Had I been switched at birth? Was this the missing puzzle piece that explained my newfound sibling? Oh, how I wish it were that simple. The truth, however, proved to be far more unsettling. As my mom recounted the day of my birth, she described the joyous anticipation of holding her newborn son. My dad stood by her side, their hearts brimming with dreams of raising a daughter. Yes, you heard that right. They had envisioned a life with a little girl, and, well, let's just say I've been living the pampered life ever since. But amidst the euphoria, fate had other plans. Due to some hospital protocol, my mom had to part with me briefly, entrusting me to the care of the nursing staff. Now, this might seem routine, but as I mentioned earlier, fate had a twist in store for us that day. Just as I was nestled among the other infants, the ground beneath us began to shake. An earthquake, of all things, rattled the hospital walls. And in that moment of chaos, amidst the cries of newborns and the panic of nurses, something went amiss. What happened next would forever alter the course of my family's history. The most crucial thing is that everyone survived the quake unscathed. Not a soul lost. Yet, amidst the chaos, a different kind of casualty emerged. The truth. We, the 16 infants, were swiftly whisked away to safety, bundled together like precious cargo. But here's where things took a wild turn. The hospital bungled the whole identity tracking business. No DNA testing, no meticulous record keeping, just a big old secret kept under wraps. For years, our folks remained blissfully unaware of the mix-up. They thought they had their own flesh and blood, not realizing there were 10 little ladies and 7 strapping lads in the mix. Eventually, the truth trickled out. But by then, bonds had been forged, love had bloomed, and unraveling it all seemed like an impossible feat. My parents, bless their hearts, chose to shield me from the storm. They showered me with love, treating me as their own flesh and blood. And let me tell you, it hit me like a ton of bricks when I learned the reality. 10 mothers, 7 fathers, a whole bunch of siblings I never knew I had. When the truth finally spilled out, it was like a dam bursting. My mom's anguish poured out in tears and curses directed at my newfound brother. She feared I'd resent them, maybe even abandon them, but she couldn't have been more wrong. I didn't blame them, not even for a moment. I was just stunned, trying to wrap my head around this newfound knowledge. Imagine discovering you have a whole other set of parents, a different upbringing, a whole new world waiting to be explored. It's mind-boggling, to say the least. But amidst the whirlwind of emotions, one thing remained clear. I needed to meet them, to unravel this tangled web of secrets and find my place in it all. I can only imagine the turmoil brewing in my parents' hearts at that moment. Perhaps they feared I'd trade them in for my real folks. Little did they know, they've always been my one and only family. Now, let's circle back to the tale of my long-lost brother. I bet you're itching to know why he went on this quest to find me. His journey kicked off when he crossed paths with a girl around the same age as his supposed sister, or the girl he grew up thinking was his sibling. At that point, who's related to whom was a giant question mark, but there was an undeniable bond between them. They clicked, started chatting, and formed a bond. And then, the bombshell. They discovered they were both born on the same day, in the same hospital. Talk about a cosmic coincidence. That revelation sent my brother down a rabbit hole of research until he unearthed the hospital's secret. Armed with the truth, he confronted his parents, demanding answers about the girl he'd been living with. Despite it being a closely guarded secret, his parents spilled the beans. Much like mine, their eyes were open to the truth years after the fact. That's when my brother made a promise, to come clean to all 17 babies involved. He refused to be complicit in this grand deception. Instead, he vowed to bring us all together, to shed light on the tangled web of lies. Apparently, I was 8th on his list of baby sleuthing. He tracked us down one by one, braving difficult conversations with each family. Suffice it to say, he was our unsung hero in this saga. As for me, words can't quite capture the whirlwind of emotions I experienced. Anger, sadness, joy, they all mingled together in a chaotic dance. But in the end, I found solace in the truth. Yet, faced with this newfound knowledge, I stood at a crossroads. Should I turn a blind eye and carry on as before, or embark on a quest to uncover my biological roots? At 20, I was adrift, grappling with questions of identity and belonging. The past 3 months have been a roller coaster of emotions, leaving me torn between the familiar comfort of ignorance and the unsettling allure of truth. So, why didn't I rush to get a DNA test? Well, that's a tale for another time. It might seem straightforward, but trust me, it's anything but simple when you're in my shoes. My folks weren't the only ones trembling at the thought of the truth. I was petrified that if they learned I wasn't their biological son, they'd cast me aside. The prospect of facing reality head-on was terrifying. So I clung to my bubble of ignorance, But every bubble bursts eventually. The looming question that haunted me was, what if I unknowingly fell for a relative? What if I bumped into my long-lost brother on the street? Ignorance wasn't bliss. It was a gamble with my safety. So, summoning every ounce of courage, I resolved to unearth the truth about my lineage and reclaim my identity. I yearned to uncover which of the 10 women was my birth mother. Taking that DNA test wasn't a walk in the park. It stirred up turmoil within my family and me. And when the results came in, they shattered my world. Everything I'd known for 20 years was a facade. My supposed parents weren't biologically related to me. That bombshell meant I might have a sibling out there, oblivious to our connection. With newfound resolve, I reached out to the brother who'd paid me that fateful visit. He had contacts for most of the babies born on our shared birth date, many of whom had already confirmed their parentage through DNA tests. Yet, one missing piece remained, a female baby whose whereabouts eluded us. In an ironic twist, she was likely the one I'd been switched with. Faced with this truth, I grappled with what to do next. My parents backed my decision. They too longed to meet their missing child. But my mother's reaction was far more intense than I anticipated. She spiraled into a battle with anxiety and depression. Every time I stepped out to chase down leads on my birth mother, it felt like I was adding another crack to her fragile heart. As I edged closer to unveiling the truth, I inadvertently distanced myself from my mom. Once more, I found myself standing at the crossroads of choice, our constant companion in life. Choices define us, shape our character, and mold our essence. They say adulthood comes with weightier decisions, where childhood worries pale in comparison. Yet, never in my wildest dreams did I envision my life veering into such tragic territory. Reality proved harsher than any nightmare. The journey for truth consumed me. I scoured hospitals, combed through city records, and delved into every corner of social media. My mission: to reunite with the girl who unknowingly lived my life for 2 decades. I yearned to understand what I'd missed and what I'd taken from her. Then, a call from the local police pierced through the fog of uncertainty. Even law enforcement became entangled in my quest for identity. They located my family, and at last, I found myself in a candid conversation with my mother. I reassured her that she'd forever hold a sacred place in my heart, that she'd always be my mother. Eventually, she grasped why I needed to pursue this path. Together, we braced ourselves for the truth and marched to the police station. We thought we'd reached the nadir of our ordeal. Little did we know, the most heart-rending chapter of our lives awaited us there. The devastating truth unfolded before us like a tragic play. Both my birth mother and the girl swapped with me were victims of an accident 3 years prior. The authorities traced them down through police reports. The grim conclusion to my tale was evident. They were no more. The girl who unknowingly walked in my shoes had met an untimely end. While I, the unwitting recipient of her life, was living a seemingly charmed existence. Blessed with loving parents and steadfast friends, I had everything a person could desire. Yet, amid this apparent fairy tale, a question lingered: should I feel gratitude for being switched at birth, or should I shoulder the burden of taking her place? The news shattered my mother and me. We returned home to relay the devastating truth to my father, who struggled to come to terms with the loss. The daughter they knew was gone, leaving a void that would take years to reconcile. The specter of unmet family members loomed over us, a constant reminder of what could have been. As for my biological father, our paths will inevitably cross in the future. But for now, I'm not prepared to confront him or his new family. Perhaps he remains unaware of my existence. I need time to reforge connections with those who raised me, irrespective of blood ties. They molded me, shaped my character, and nurtured my spirit. In their embrace, I find solace and belonging, for they are my true family.